Hello people, this is Mark from Courage Change Works. Guys, I hope that you're well. Frustration, what is it? I'm going to talk about it, and I'm going to talk about different things that we can do to try and reduce this frustrating feeling of frustration. In lockdown 2020, there's been a lot of frustration, I would guess, around the world in terms of the changes in rules. Now we can do this and now we can't. And the ambiguity of things in terms of progress and the uncertainty of particularly 2020, in my eyes, has caused a lot of frustration, because the norm as we would understand the world to have functioned, and how it has functioned for years and years and years, millennia, now all of a sudden, because of a virus, the whole world has come to a grinding halt. And people who could normally go out and do their normal thing now can't, and they are frustrated because they can't actually go out and do the things that they A, normally do, B, do the things they normally enjoy doing, and it just seems to be this lack of progress as far as moving on in 2020 is concerned. So I thought, let's talk about this frustration feeling and emotion, and let's see what we can do about it. So, got a couple of notes, and I'm going to run through the ideas, what I think is important for us to consider on what frustration is and how we can deal with it. So, the definition of frustration is simply this feeling that people have because they are upset, annoyed, feels like they're being held back, there's no progress, like I've said before. And I suppose it's like treading water with your favorite meal or favorite drink just outside arm's length, but you are being held back by, let's pretend, a strong elastic rubber, and you're trying to get to it and you can't, and you're making every effort you can and you just can't reach because it's outside your control how far this binding thing, in this case the elastic band, will stretch. Frustration, horrible thing. So let's look at a few causes. Poor communication. I've seen it in my own life multiple times. Now, as you all know, I'm from South Africa. We speak very, very different there. The tonality is different. The words we use is different. The context in what we speak, these said words, is different. So the South African mindset is very different to, let's pretend, where I'm now in Stoke-on-Trent in England. And I can remember coming here and having to try and explain myself to British people with a South African mindset. And I could see the frustration in the people who were trying to hear what I was trying to say, and it didn't make any sense to them. Equally, because I didn't understand the British culture. I was trying to say things from a South African point of view that made perfect sense, but I couldn't express it in a way that actually make any sense. So on both sides there was this frustration in terms of trying to communicate effectively, understanding what both parties needed to hear and say. When people aren't necessarily listening to you, when you in the same culture group or maybe culture subgroup, when the speaker is speaking about something really important and the listener is doing everything but listen. And if you can empathize, you get that feeling in your stomach maybe and you're shaking a little bit, but just listen to what I'm saying to you. There's frustration because you can't keep the communication lines free and open. So poor communication is something that could cause. Now the way to deal with this is please explain yourself in another way. Like I've had to learn how to say one thing in 4 or 5 different ways because I've had to learn how to think like British people. So my communication skills has expanded in terms of explaining what I want to say. You might have seen it on this particular channel also. So because of what I've just said, my experiences in South Africa has kind of set a benchmark for my experience in life. And what I've learned there and what I've tried to apply it here in England has also caused a frustration both in trying to demonstrate ability, and people couldn't recognize ability because we were behaviorally speaking 2 different languages. So on the basis of different experiences, different backgrounds, different cultures, traditions, rituals, and these kind of thing can also generate a lot of frustration, even though maybe both parties can see the efforts made by the other party. But as the saying goes, you will never truly understand it unless it happens to you, comes to mind here. So when you are trying to explain to a depressed person what depression is like, they hear the words, but because they've got no behavioral reference point, it's just words that they're hearing. You might as well speak Chinese to a German. It's the same. And trying to put yourself in another person's shoes to try and get what they are experiencing at the time of the explanation takes some effort. And from my understanding, you've really got to have big behavioral flexibility to be able to do that and empathize with understanding because of behavioral differences and experiential differences and linguistic differences. So when you see someone trying to communicate in a way that you don't understand, is it linguistic, is it behavioral, is it cultural, traditional, spiritual, call it whatever you want, makes no difference. But all these differences makes a massive difference in the frustration levels both ways of the communication partnership. And like I said right at the top of this particular video, when you are not making any progress, so let's link these 3 together. You've got your communication hiccups, you've got your behavioral experiential hiccups. Now when you combine those 3 into one little pot and you're trying to make progress on a project, you want to make progress in your business, in your school, at work, whatever the case might be, a relationship that you are in, and it feels like you're just pedaling water, but it feels like you're actually pedaling in custard or jelly, it generates a lot of frustration because you're having to iron out all the different the wrinkles in the communication systems that are out there, linguistics, behavioral, and experiential. It feels like you can't get beyond that point, and it certainly taps your frustration in a big way. Let's look at 2020. Let's look at how this year has gone. How many people have ended up in broken relationships because of this thing? And it might have been kind of highlighted in this particular year. because of lockdown and the lack of being able to go out and enjoy the things that we normally would do. So now you are dealing with someone who might have poor communication skills. You might have someone that's got vastly different experiences. And when you combine those together with other factors such as traditions and other rituals that you might have, because of the enclosed environment that the majority of the world has been forced to go into, that has now become a pressure cooker environment, and relationships break down. People have lost their jobs. People have become alcoholics, drug addicts, gamblers, all kind of manner of expressions of their frustration, just trying to make it feel like they are actually moving forward in life. So I urge you, if you feel this innate ability to go, I can't move any further, to really dig deep and recognize what it is. And at the end of this particular playlist, I'm going to talk about different ways of dealing with this feeling of frustration, and how we can exert our energy, and how we can start to think clearly about what we can do to actually break the hold in order to move forward. So I'm just going to talk about these 3 little things now, and then I'm going to make some more videos as far as this annoying emotion is concerned. So if you've enjoyed this particular video, or you've got your own story, please put it in the comments box. Like and share, and when you pick the little notification bell, pick all, so you get all the content that we upload on a day-to-day basis. And of course, subscribe and tell all your friends and family to do exactly the same. But for this video, this is it. This is Mark from Colors Change Works, and I'll speak to you soon.